Lee, thanks for jumping on the call today. Thanks for doing the interview here with me today. I know we had a chance to do this a couple of weeks ago, and excited to reverse roles and talk to you guys at GreatAmerica about all the value that you're adding inside of the community and the profitability that you help drive for your partners. Again, I'm Ryan Goodman, president and one of the original founders here at ConnectBooster. Again, here with Lee Rozeboom of GreatAmerica to give you guys just a top level overview of what ConnectBooster is. We're a payments automation and accounts receivable platform that takes the pain out of collecting money from your clients and getting it into your bank account for your services. And so we make it ridiculously easy for your clients to give you money, ridiculously easy for you to collect money from your clients, while at the same time eliminating all of the headache of chasing down clients and all of the headache of manually putting those payments into your accounting package. So saving you hours and hours every single month. Lee, why don't you give us, again, a top-down, just quick overview of GreatAmerica prior to me digging in and drilling into all of the hard questions that I have for you.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it, Ryan, and appreciate that high-level overview. And, Ryan talked about it a little bit and just making it ridiculously easy for your customers to give you money. And what GreatAmerica is really trying to do is make it ridiculously easy for you to provide monthly payments out there to your clients and to your end users that really line up with your monthly recurring revenue models. And if you think about the managed services space, everything is moving towards that monthly payment model. What GreatAmerica really does is dive in and figure out what it is you're trying to accomplish, and how do we then take a lot of those capital intensive products and projects that it's just a necessary evil that you've got to sell out there to maintain and help that managed services and help your clients continue to grow. How do we take that and turn that into more of a monthly payment model and allow you to create an easier, more seamless recurring revenue model that allows for standardization, allows for growth, and allows for a better customer experience. And that's really what we try and do here at GreatAmerica. And you mentioned before, my name is Lee Rozeboom, I'm Vice President of Strategic Relationships here. And obviously throughout, we try and partner up with very strong, other very strong vendors within the channel. And that's how ConnectBooster and GreatAmerica a few years back really got hooked up. Right. And we're looking forward to talk a little bit more about it.
Sounds good. Well, I'm going to dig in. You had mentioned recurring payments, the continued growth actually of monthly payment approach inside of the channel. Obviously, we know this resonates well with IT service providers. Recurring revenue is the way of the future. It's what adds true value at the end of the day to our businesses. So what are some of the major reasons that partners are engaging with you guys to grow that recurring revenue? What kind of success are you guys seeing with those partners?
No, it's a really good question. And you think about just the proliferation of the monthly payments structure out there, and you think about back to 10 years ago, 15 years ago, everything was, and maybe even a little further back, but everything was break fix and it was project based, and you might have got a little bit of block time in there so I could get some ongoing service. Right. And everything has really just shifted and continues to shift at an even faster pace. And when you think about it, everything has moved really from that one time to almost everything. How do we make everything recurring, right? And including my hardware sales, my project sales, everything. How do I turn that into a full monthly payment? And that's where, GreatAmerica has seen a lot of success with working with partners and helping them be very successful, is those partners that are really saying, I want to do this for everything, right? I want to make everything I do that monthly payment model. And with the growth of cloud, with the growth of hosted voice, and just all these different areas with Microsoft Azure and others, and Microsoft 365, everything is moving to that monthly payment. And heck, you pull out your phone, right? You think about this. Everything we do here, we pay for this monthly. We're going to upgrade it every 2 years, 3 years. Netflix, you've got Apple Music, whatever it is. Everything's becoming monthly. So as the world is really shifting that way, what GreatAmerica is trying to figure out is how do we help facilitate that, because there's always going to be capital purchases out there. Right. There's just always going to be that need, right? And so how do we take those and turn those into more of a recurring model for our partners and for the managed service providers out there, and do it in a cash flow effective way for them? What are some of the things that you guys are doing specifically? In regards to helping provide that monthly payments? Yeah. So listen, we're a finance company, right? At the end of the day, at the core of what we do, we're a finance company. What we do is we take capital purchases, we figure out the best vehicle and way for a managed service provider and IT service provider out there to finance it, and either to their end user, right? And the end user has a monthly payment with GreatAmerica, and we put it out there as a monthly payment, and we pay to the managed service provider upfront for the capital purchase and the project work and the software and everything that goes with it, and still allows them to go out and tie that monthly payment in with their managed services contract, right? So
right.
And there's lots of different ways we can do it. We can do that on standard financing. If you think about leasing, right? And I don't like to say leasing, that has a bad connotation with it. But if you think about standard financing agreements where the customer owns equipment at the end, that's one way of doing it.
Yep.
Another is where the customer doesn't necessarily own the equipment at the end, and there's options to upgrade, return, continue to rent month to month. Or there's also the option where we provide a monthly payment where it's more of a rental type option. And in those situations, that really provides that as a service look and feel.
Right.
We'll talk about a little bit later here.
So hardware as a service, you had mentioned as a service. Hardware as a service, I mean, it's a model that's growing inside of the industry, right? So what are you guys seeing inside of the channel in terms of adoption? More specifically, what are you guys doing to help bring partners on board with that model to sell that through to their end client?
Ryan, that's a really good question. It's a broad question, and I'll kind of narrow it down here. Everyone in the industry is really trying to hit that, that hardware as a service model right now. They are. How they do it is really the question. Is how do I go about building this thing? Because frankly, hardware as a service in its purest form is, I'm the managed service provider. I'm going to provide my managed services and my cloud services and everything else that's in my recurring revenue stack. And then I'm going to take my hardware, my software, my labor, my capital investments up front, and I'm going to invest it, bring it together, and I'm going to bring it out to the client. And it's a fantastic model. It really is. The problem that we really see is in the purest form, I'm investing all that money myself.
That's right. Yeah. And that's a huge capital expenditure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
absolutely right. And so if I want to do this strategically on the larger scale, that gets very difficult because all of a sudden I'm doing it so if I'm a strong managed service provider has 30, 40, 50, 60 clients that have all these PCs, these different types of networking gear, sometimes servers, depending on how you're providing that out there. But these capital investments start to get very, very large. So when you think about that hardware as a service is really, it's great, but how do we facilitate it in a way that really works? And so what GreatAmerica has really talked about, and we try and help them, is how do I do this and facilitate this in a way where it's cash flow effective for me and my business? How do I help my customers not necessarily be the bank and take all the risk and take all the stuff that goes with it, and figure out a way to cash flow this so I'm cash flow positive day one on my as a service type model? And so we can do things where you think about it's called hardware as a rental. That's what we've really tagged and branded our hardware as a service model for our customers. And that hardware as a rental model is really a way where we can mimic hardware as a service, but take that cash flow burden off of the customer, right? Off of the managed service provider.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to ask if there's a difference between the two, or if that's a naming convention, or...
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a really good question. We actually started many years back. We called it Lifecycle financing.
Okay.
And oddly enough, that term has actually sprung up again in working in a couple different areas with some of the manufacturers out there that we're working with. But Lifecycle financing 7 or 8 years ago, or actually it's 9 or 10 years ago now. Man, I've been in the channel.
You've been in it for a while, yeah.
Been at it for a while. But we rolled out Lifecycle financing and say, hey, it's the lifecycle of your hardware. But financing in the managed service provider space, if you think about it, it has not been very prevalent. Most people are always trying to figure out, hey, how do I do this on my own? Leasing, sure, I can use these manufacturer type programs, but it's not necessarily the best thing for my customer. So you think about all these different ways people have been doing it in the past, but lifecycle financing didn't really resonate. So we kind of changed it because what we're really trying to do is mimic hardware as a service. So we changed it to hardware as a rental, because really what we're doing is bringing a rental agreement out there where it's a non-cancelable rental agreement where you can tie in your managed services. You can put that all into a single monthly payment. Yep. And then we'll still cash flow you upfront for your hardware, your software, your project work, and all of that. That's one way of doing it, right? That's if I'm saying I'm going to take the whole of this and I'm going to go to my end user and I want to bundle this all together and I want to bring them this single monthly payment and have GreatAmerica be involved. And that can be either where it's GreatAmerica branded, or oftentimes that can be private label branded where it looks and
Right.
feels like a service provider. That's one way of doing it. Some managed service providers will say, hey, I don't necessarily want to do that for everything, but I want to do it for one or two products, right? Let's, for example, Datto, or even if you think about an antivirus or a firewall or something like that, I have these small components. And a lot of time, some of these managed service providers will say, well, I can just simply cash flow these myself. And they do it, right? Because they're small dollar amounts, $3,000, $4,000. But if you start adding those up times, 40, 50 clients, all of a sudden it's $250,000 I have invested. It's profitable business, but I'm still tying up capital.
Right.
In those instances, GreatAmerica will oftentimes finance directly to the MSP. So they can create true hardware as a service where we'll pay the vendor for it, right? Datto will pay the Datto for this, and you can go put this out and move it around and bill and collect and do whatever you want with it. And we can absolutely do that on smaller ticket items where we have some runway with the MSP to actually build up a line of credit with them, and they can go out and do that.
Yeah.
So we have hardware as a rental where the end user is on the hook, and we have more hardware as a service where we'll finance directly to the MSP and say, hey, you can build up a line there.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, you explained that really well. There's a very key difference. It's not just naming convention. There's completely two different approaches to how you're going to market with each of those plans. Interesting.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna shift it up on you a little bit here. MSPs standardization is obviously an extremely important part of being efficient and profitable as an MSP. Yeah. So how does working with GreatAmerica, an MSP, IT service provider, working with you guys, how do you guys help with standardization?
Yeah, standardization has really been a rage, and I'm sure a lot of you out there, a lot of MSPs out there are avid followers of Paul Dipple, who's been coining that term before it was even cool, right? I mean, that's it's been around, but that's one of those things where standardization is so very important in managed service providers as they continue to scale and grow. And that's not just on the hardware and the different products I'm selling out there. It's also on processes internally, right? On what are the different ways I'm working my business? How do I standardize everything as much as possible so I can deliver to my end user, each of my end users, a fairly similar stack, a fairly similar process to the point where I can scale and not have to add more and more and more bodies. Obviously, we have to do that, but the more I can do with fewer people just drives, like you said, more profitability, more valuation, and so on and so forth. So standardization, really, when we talk about how GreatAmerica helps standardization, sure, we can help on the process side if we really develop a really good process around selling a monthly payment, but we also help on standardizing that stack to the customers. If you think about when I need to go in and standardize, I'm bringing on a new client or even some of my old clients, it is hard to get them to upgrade the technology on a frequent basis, right? Because if it's working, I don't necessarily want to invest capital into this stuff, right? Because if I invest capital in stuff, I got other stuff I want to do, and you guys are taking care of it so well, but all of a sudden I'm 4 years and 5 years in and I'm using all this old stuff, the tickets start going up and then there's problems. And then all of a sudden your profitability goes down as a managed service provider, an IT service provider. And then I'm sitting here thinking to myself, well, how do I get them into the next generation or get them up and running? I got new security stuff that needs to come out. So I may be liable, right, if I don't have the new security and the managed security out there. So what GreatAmerica really helps do is provide an easy, budgetable, digestible way to get those upgrades going, right? So that monthly payment is a lot easier than saying, hey, it's a $50,000 investment, saying, this is going to be, $1,200 a month and for 48 months or whatever the number is. That gives me an easier way to start to budget for this and roll. And once I get my customers on a monthly payment, statistically we'll show you, once I get those customers on a monthly payment for that, their mindset goes there. And instead of having that big conversation every 3 and 4 years, by the way, I need a $50,000, $80,000, $30,000, name your number investment, I'm just saying, hey, we're going to come in and replace that equipment, and we're going to keep your monthly payment approximately the same, and we're going to get you into brand new and continue to go. And if I can do that, I streamline my upgrade process, I standardize my stack, I standardize everything that's out there, and it just drives profitability and efficiency and customer experience. If I can standardize this well, my customer experience then becomes extremely positive as well, and it's just going to continue to go from there.
You're able to take the decision out of that process from the customer and just roll it into seamless process, bundled 100%. Up into a monthly payment that is Well, it's just not questioned. Just it's part of the plan. It's part of business continuity and a cost of doing business.
Exactly right, Ryan.
That makes sense. Awesome. Shift gears on you again a little bit. We're going to talk about M&A. A lot of it going on in the industry right now, and business valuation is front of mind, for business owners in this type of a climate. So is that something that you address? I mean, that ties back to recurring revenue, that ties back to efficiency in collections and the ability to bring in payments. Yeah. Is it something that comes up in conversation in your sales process?
It does. It actually comes up quite a bit, and I'll say the frequency of the M&A is just amazing to me right now. It's conversations we're having weekly, if not daily basis, within the different channels that we serve, but also especially within the IT channel. It's weekly where we have someone that's acquiring someone, or hey, it's all over the place right now. It's really it seems like a seller's market right now at the moment, and we'll see how that continues to go and progress. But yeah, I mean, if you think about the valuation piece, and we hit on a lot of it, if you think about what drives valuation, it's the ability to drive better EBITDA, right? So if I think about my valuation, typically in the MSP world, it's really just multiples of EBITDA, and how strong is that? How strong is that? The history of my my books and my cash flow and my profits and everything else that goes along with my recurring revenue, and what's driving that consistency. So if you think about multiples of EBITDA, it's how do we continue to make that better? And if you think about the different pieces where if you implement a strong monthly payment program with GreatAmerica, if you're doing more of a hardware as a service, all of a sudden you can shift that hardware as a service and make it more cash flow positive. We've seen this many, many times where we come in, someone's been doing hardware as a service on their own for years, and they're doing a fantastic job and they're growing their recurring revenue, but he says, Lee, my debt's growing right along with it. Because I'm sitting here borrowing against it because I need it to scale, or I'm using my own cash flow, which is fantastic, but I can't scale at the rate I would normally do because I'm tying all my cash back up into earning assets. Absolutely.
Right.
It's not scaling at the rate I may be able to if I have able to acquire people myself. So what that does is if you can figure out a way to do this in a situation where it's cash flow positive, where I can standardize, where I can upgrade more frequently, where my managed services become more profitable because there's less noise, and you take all these different pieces that will start to drive the EBITDA up, and then more margins on my hardware, more margins on my labor, things like that, because we're not talking about big cash prices, we're talking about monthly payments. All these different components add up to drive that EBITDA up. And, again, I mentioned Paul Dipple a little earlier, but we've done a lot of work with him in analysis in different ways, and working with GreatAmerica versus not working with GreatAmerica, and you just see some definite differences in the performance, right? And how do we really help drive some of that and steer some of that along the way? And again, it's not necessarily directly impactful. It's all the different pieces that add up and then ultimately push that EBITDA up if we're doing it right and working together.
Well, and I like the approach. I mean, this is certainly something that people could self-serve themselves, but if you're really looking to drive business value, I mean, you guys are putting forth a model where they're going to have more cash and ultimately drive more value, like tangible value in the case of an exit, or Absolutely. If they're planning for exit, they should be engaging with you guys to have these conversations about what's the lay of the land. What do the next 5 years look like? And if I start shifting my model, what does that actually mean, in terms of a multiple on EBITDA?
It's interesting to say that. We've run some pretty heavy analysis on it. If you run them side by side, if I keep doing things the same way I'm doing it, if I start doing hardware as a service on my own, or I start doing hardware as a rental, what is the impact? And if you take a look at it, the impact is pretty significant. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it all this way. But if I'm looking to sell in the next 5 years or 10 years, but let's just say in the short term, 3 to 5 years, if I can drive 500, $1 million more to my valuation, what does that do for myself in the long term and my prosperity as a business owner, right?
I admittedly fall into that trap from time to time as a business owner, where you're like, hey, we can do this ourselves, but what's the end game? And what's the value driving to my business? Just because I can, should I? And you really need to look at all the options, I think, is the 100%. Point. You need to look at all those options.
Yes. Oh, no, 100%.
Cool. So we've talked a lot about the recurring model, recurring payments, being really valuable to the IT business owner, and MSP. we've also highlighted on the benefits to the end client as well. We had flushed out predictable monthly cost, for the latest and greatest in terms of technology and security. Anything else for the end client of our MSP that you guys see as a benefit, or feedback that you guys get, through your partners and what their clients and customers are saying?
Yeah,
it's a tough question, man.
It is. I mean, so you think about it, because we're talking about this, and we're thinking, wow, this is really good for me as an MSP. This is good for my sales team. This is good. But why? And we get this all the time, right? Why is this good for my end user, right? Why is this good for my end client? And because you think, well, it's a finance agreement, so that they're paying more over the term, and I don't want my customer to pay interest, right? We get all of these different types of pushbacks where it's like, is it really that good? But when you really dial it down and you think about it, and you think about how much can I best serve my client, right, long term. And I'm not saying that every single time financing or hardware as a service or anything else is going to be the very best option, but it is if you are leading with it and you are working through it and you believe in what you're selling out there, it will be a good thing for the client, because what this does for the client long term is it allows for peace of mind around these different purchases. I'm taking what's typically a capital purchase for equipment, and let's be frankly honest, as soon as I install this stuff, probably goes down to 20% in value of what it is.
Yeah.
And I, without getting too detailed and within it, if you think about having your customers invest in something that is so terribly depreciated that I know in 3 years or 4 years, I'm going to do the same thing and stroke another 40, 50, $60 check, am I doing them a good service and saying, hey, you should own this?
Right.
It's not saying that they may not want to based on their capital position or anything else, but at the end of the day, and I've seen it within GreatAmerica, we've seen it where you'll have a deal right off in the first 1 or 2 months, and you get it back, and you invested $90,000. You know what we get for that on the resale market? $3,000, $4,000.
Right. Yeah.
But don't worry. That's a really good investment for the client. So, and that's what we're trying to show our customers out there is, if I can get us on a monthly payment model, and I can basically flatten out my costs
and refresh that technology.
Them on the best technology. Their experience is better with you as an MSP. Their technology is in a better place, and them as a business and being able to scale and grow and use technology to its fullest extent, it will absolutely be a good thing for them. Again, I'm not advocating saying, hey, it's always the right thing to do, but I am saying if you actually go out there with the approach and you walk through it and talk them through it, in the end, a lot of this will help them from a technological and ultimately customer experience standpoint, because at the end of the day, it's just a better, smoother feel for them long term.
And I think it ties into the MSP sale of, what happens if this infrastructure is not working 24/7, 365 inside of your business and client. What type of impact does this have?
100%.
The disparity is huge, right?
Yep.
Disparity is huge. So you work with a wide range of verticals. Also inside of the MSP channel, I mean, there are different degrees of IT service providers, MSPs. What are the business models? What are the MSP business model types? The partners that you're engaging that are seeing the most success with your model? Is there a home run swing when you talk to a business owner? Are there factors inside of that conversation that you tie back to? Like, are there 2-3 things that they're looking to accomplish where we are going to hit it out of the park for this partner, help drive profitability, help drive end user experience?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Ryan. And you're right. There's a wide range of IT service providers out there, and you think about the managed services space, and it ranges from a 2-3 man managed service provider that's just looking to grow and continue to grow to your 100-person, very mature managed service provider. And what I will say is, absolutely, there's a certain aspect that we look for, and you say, well, is it the size of the partner? Is it the sales reps? Is it is it leadership? What does it look like? And I will say that it does not matter if you're a 5-person MSP or you're a 75-person MSP.
Okay.
Really what we're looking for, and a really good partnership, is that understanding between the two companies that, hey, we're here and we're here to grow, right? That's the first thing we're really looking for. We're looking for, are we working with a partner that is setting goals, 3, 4, 5 years down the road? This is what I want to be. This is what I want to become. And this is how I want to get there, right? That is thinking long-term. And I'm not saying, listen, there's a lot of lifestyle managed service providers out there. Absolutely work with a lot of them as well. But when we think about, hey, how can we really help each other grow and scale? That's the first thing we're looking for. Is we're looking for a managed service provider that has a vision on where they want to go. That's the first thing. And then from there, we're looking for a company, whether it's 5, 75, or what else, that they're looking to implement change, right? It's easy because a lot of times, and this is within the MSP space, there is so much noise, right? You think about the changes in product that these MSPs, right? The different tools. I mean, you go to these different conferences and you know it, right? Oh, yeah. There are these brand new tools all the time that me as a managed service provider owner, I'm just getting inundated all the time, and it's difficult. And for those MSP owners that are like you and me, it's like squirrel. You're looking at all these different things and getting pulled all over the place. It's hard, and so a lot of times we'll get the mind share. We'll talk with the owner, and they're like, "Yes, we want to do this," but then they can't drive it down through the organization to get the change, right? And so am I willing to make that change? Am I willing to take that? If I say, hey, this is good for my company because it's going to make us more profitable, it's going to drive valuation, it's going to help our customers, it's going to help us standardize, and I'm willing to make changes within my business around the selling process, the sales motion, the comp plan, very important, because if I want my reps to sell this way, they're doing it a little differently now than they usually have. How do I change the comp plan to make that a little bit more effective? So that would be another one, is someone that's willing to make the changes. So, right, vision, what I want to do, a leader that's willing to make the changes, and then from there, a partner that's really looking to work together and grow together. And I'll say it, and as far as it sounds, I mean, GreatAmerica, listen, we were 26 years ago, we were a 5-person shop in Podunk, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, in a small building on First Avenue, right? Yeah. In 26 years, and you think about just the vision of GreatAmerica and our owner and our founder, we're a finance company, right? Yeah. It's not necessarily rocket science on what we do. There's banks, there's different things out there. There's a million people that will be out there to lend you money. But our owner's philosophy really turned it on its head and said, listen, my customer is going to be the partner. The end user is obviously, we bill and collect and we make money on interest. I mean, that's what we do. Right. Our customer is the partner. If my customer is a partner, how do I build my business in a way to support them, to grow with them? And that way, if they keep their clients and I can help them keep their clients, then all of a sudden we're growing together. Yeah. So someone that's going to, so that third option, that third thing we're really looking for is a strong partnership where we are aligned on where we want to go together. Right. So that's where vision, making change, and then just that alignment and that vision or the alignment and working together to really try and grow together. Because this is a partnership. This is not just, hey, we're not just here to provide financing for your customer. We're here to help you grow your business, and we want you to help us continue to grow as well. That's what we do. And so that whole mantra on how we do things has helped us grow from 5 employees to 600. And that's all pretty much organic growth, a little bit of M&A here and there, but very small. So we really do want to help grow together, and that's been our philosophy all the way through, and it continues to be.
Well, and one of the things that I've seen working with you guys now for several years is you understand the model too. What bank is going to understand the model? Yeah, and that's a good point. You talk about, okay, we have a partnership with our MSPs. You also can help them fall into the model. You can give them the game plan to utilize what you guys do as a finance company, but a bank's not going to come in and give them the game plan, right? No. And so are there any specifics? I know I'm really kind of probably throwing you a curveball, and maybe you want to engage on a one-on-one, so don't feel like you have to dig into this, but you have that conversation. You say, I'm ready. I want to make a change. I want to grow my business. I have buy-in. All right, what's next step? Do you guys take them through an onboarding process? You say, all right, guys, here's our best practices, and here's how you go out and be successful, and here's how we work together.
Ryan, it's really, really good question. And actually, I sound like a broken record here, but obviously we've worked with service leadership and what used to be HCG, ConnectWise, Evolve, right? We've done a lot of things, and the point you made there is understanding our industry. That's one of the things in looking at the MSP or the channel partner as our customer.
Mm-hmm.
The things we need to make sure we are is extremely proficient with the industry to be able to help them.
Right.
I can't just come in and just say, hey, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
How you do it. We've got to dive in and understand who it is we're working with, what's important to them, and how do we really adjust what we do to fit in their world. And so that has led us to a lot of different partnerships. For example, ConnectBooster, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but the ConnectBooster, where if we're going to bundle payments together, how do we make the payment processing that much easier? And that's why we're working with ConnectBooster, because we can create synergies there. With ConnectWise, Cell, and others, we have a lot of different integrations that we put together to make it really easy for the clients to work through this. And then we partnered with service leadership to really dive into, okay, we can help identify, we can show what it is we can do from an impact perspective. And we recently built out basically an OML tool to identify, where am I at? If I look at this from a maturity level of financing or monthly payment selling, where am I at today? Where do I want to go? And here's the roadmap to be able to get there.
That's
and
awesome.
These are the different pieces in my businesses that I have to work on within my sales team, within my operations side, within this or within that. And there's different sales trainings, there's different models and things like that we put together to say, this is how you take steps to kind of climb that ladder. And if you don't want to go all the way to the top, that's absolutely fine. If I want to just get to here, here's the steps I get to level 3 or level 4, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And we can help drive that. So we put a big investment in that as well to help make it easy. Because early on, you think about it, and same thing with you, right? We just kind of do things because, hey, look, it's working, and we figure out. But then all of a sudden, we get to the place where we're like, well, I want to do what they did. How did you do that?
Exactly.
Oh, gosh, we need to build something here to show you to make those adjustments. Yeah. And all of a sudden, we mature as well, and that just helps everybody, right? It helps the MSP, it helps us, it helps our partners like ConnectBooster to continue to expand and grow. So, really good question. I'm not sure if I answered it though.
No, you're giving that roadmap, man. I mean, and I think the point is you're well beyond finance.
Yeah.
Finance is a huge part of the business, but you're well beyond the commodity of finance. You guys have invested a lot of time, energy, and effort into understanding the business model so you can help them become successful. And you can get these MSPs, they don't have to reinvent the wheel. You have the roadmap. You know what I mean? And you can plug them right into success, which I think is cool from the outside looking in. I'm not a finance company. We work to help these guys get paid, but when I'm looking for a partner in expertise, I want to see been there, done that, and I also want to see successful people that I can talk to understand your model and not hear it from you. And you have lots of that, which is cool. So reach out and talk amongst your peers, I guess is the point. You're gonna find some happy partners that are making money and making their businesses more valuable.
Yes.
So you had touched a little bit on our integration. I mean, this is definitely not about me, but you made a great point. We can make the billing and collections of those payments and those bundled payments and a single end client invoice really, really simple. And so thanks for highlighting that. It's something that we do. But again, I wanna keep this focused on you. So I have a question. A lot of our, and this is how I want to end, I guess. A lot of our guests probably want to know if you're single.
Yeah.
If so, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Lee Rozeboom at GreatAmerica.com. My wife does check that email oftentimes to see what my schedule looks like. So try and be coy. All right. Really play it cool. Right?
So now I'll ask you the real question. Winding down, again, I appreciate you spending the time with us. And we're obviously huge fans because we see the effects of our partners having partnership with you guys, and we're directly involved in the payments end, and we see the growth inside of the partners that we both serve when they're engaging with you and engaging with us. We have the numbers, right? So Where can our listeners find you? How can they engage with you? Where do they go? What do they do to take the next steps? Give us some of that info, man.
Absolutely. Well, guys, if you think for the viewers out there, obviously website www.greatamerica.com, that's fantastic. And you really want to focus in, you can go to basically the IT channel services, and you can get in contact there and reach out. That's the easiest way to do it. We're going to be at a lot of shows. We're at ConnectWise, we're at Exchange. We spend a lot of time at these industry events. But also, if you think about, we talked a little bit about those different integrations and those different places there. And if you think about ConnectWise, and you think about ConnectWise Sell, and you think about QuoteWorks, you think about ConnectBooster, and you think about all these different places that we work, you're going to be able to get in contact with us through any of those areas as well. Because if you ask about those different things, we have integrations in all those spots to tie that whole sales process beginning to end together. Outside of that, I would just say pick up your phone and call GreatAmerica, and we will get you to the right person. We are really focused. We have an IT-focused team that's specifically focused on IT managed service providers, very knowledgeable in the industry. They're broken down by region in the South and the North and the West. And from there, we'll get you to the right spot. And when you call into GreatAmerica, this is my promise to you. If you call in during business hours, there's 2 rings. There's no voicemail. Someone's going to answer the phone with a smile on their face. We do that, and we're broken into teams of 10 to 12 people because, we're a 600 employee company, and we're a bank to some degree, right? We're a finance company.
Right.
We don't want you to have that experience. When you call in, you're going to get someone on the phone. They're going to get you the right spot. And once you start working with us, they're going to know your program. They're going to know your name. They're going to know who you are. They're going to know what you need to do. And we're going to be able to help you walk all the way through that from beginning to end. Those teams are staffed with salespeople, with our credit people, our account support people, and then anything from a portfolio standpoint. Our entire team is built around how do we serve you as a 12-person company.
That's awesome.
So I say reach out. That's kind of a mantra of what we do. It's not the cheapest way to run a business. I'll tell you that right now, but it is the most effective in serving you as a client and as our partner. And that's what we want to do.
That's awesome, Lee. Well, thanks again for the time. Looking forward to the next conversation. And thank you for all you do for your partners to help drive their profitability.
Thank you, Ryan. Really appreciate it, and enjoy the lake. Other people will be working hard, selling the dream. I appreciate it.